Good morning, everybody. I wanted to talk to people about bringing a puppy home for the first time. Settle down. You be good. I wanted to talk to all of you about bringing a puppy home for the first time, about potty training, crate training, and future training as well. There's a lot of work that goes into bringing a puppy home. There's a lot of changes that are going on in that dog's life. He's being separated from her mother, other litter mates, a lifestyle that they've become a little bit aware of here while they're with us or wherever the litter is, if it's not one of our puppies, wherever you get the puppy from. And then you're gonna bring the puppy home, whether you have a family or it's just you alone or you and a spouse. It doesn't really matter. It's different. The puppy is a baby. It's only 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks old. Even if it's a couple of months old, it's still a baby. It's still not sure of the changes that are going on, and it's going to be a little bit upset. Even if the changes are better, even if it went from, say, being in a kennel to being in a home with you sleeping on your bed, it's still a drastic change from the life that it had before, and it's going to take a little bit of an adjustment. This puppy doesn't come home with you like a toy that you put a battery in and it operates a certain way. You really need to work with this puppy. You need to adjust with this puppy, and this puppy needs to adjust with you. And you need to give it that time and be prepared for it. It's not that easy. However, you can make it easier doing a few things. One is what I always say: practice your ABCs, always be consistent. ABCs, always be consistent. And ABTs, always be training. That part there, the always be training part, is really important for people to understand, because your puppy is always learning, even when you're not paying attention to it. If you're cooking and the puppy is out on the living room chewing on a bone, like what she is right now, it doesn't mean that she isn't paying attention to things that are going on in the house, things that you're doing. If you're cooking and you drop a little piece of meatball on the floor and the puppy notices it and gets it before you notice it, now you start to teach the dog about counter surfing and maybe eating human food if you don't want it to eat human food. And then begging can start from there. A lot of times people tell me that when the puppy first comes home, it was much better than after a couple of days later. And the reason that it was much better is because, especially if you get one of my puppies, it does start to learn a consistent routine. And so when you first bring it home, it still is in that mode that it learned from me. And probably any other responsible breeder that you get your puppy from. The first few days are going to be easier than the next few days, because now that routine that it has gotten accustomed to, the consistency, always be consistent, and the always be training portion that that breeder provided to that litter is now ingrained in that puppy short term. And it brings that good habit home with it when it first gets there. And once it gets into your home, and I'm not trying to say that dog owners are the root of all of the problems. There's a lot of bad breeders that are out there. There's a lot of puppies that come from not good circumstances. I'm not referring to that. I'm referring to responsible breeders, healthy puppies, puppies that are happy and are used to being loved and have received some sort of consistent lifestyle before they went home with you. But from that point forward, it is what it learns from you. It does become what it learns from you. So if it has a bad habit, it learned it from you. Not necessarily that you taught it a bad habit, but potentially because you didn't recognize you were doing something, like dropping the meatball on the floor. Maybe you didn't even know you did it. And maybe you didn't even see the puppy come into that room and pick up that meatball and eat it. And now all of a sudden you have a puppy that's counter surfing or begging, and you have no clue how that happened. So you can teach a puppy a bad habit without even knowing that you're doing it and not even intending to do it. So this is not a video designed to ball you out for your mistakes. I just want you to become aware of that. When you first bring a puppy home, it is going to have some conditioning. It is going to have things that it's become accustomed to, including its other litter mates and its mother, if its mother's still associating with them, and the lifestyle that may have been taught slightly by the breeder before you took it home. So be aware of that. Now, when you get that puppy home, generally you're bringing that puppy home to a family, maybe another dog, a condition that is completely different than what it had before. He still needs to learn that there's rules in your home. No matter how much freedom that puppy's going to have in your home, he's still a puppy. Physically, he's still developing. They only have a certain physical capacity to be able to hold their urine. The sphincter muscle has only got a certain amount of development to be able to hold their poop from being all over your living room or your family room or your bedroom or wherever it might be. So that puppy, when it first comes home, no matter how well trained it may have been before it got there, because of the changes that it's going through, you have to consistently be taking that puppy out, learning where your grass is or where your potty area is that you want that puppy to have. If it's apartment living, okay, no, off. If it's apartment living that you have and you're going to be teaching your dog a pee pad, Ayla, no, go lay down, go on. If you're going to be teaching your dog to use a pad in an apartment, you have to be consistent with all of that. Also, your dog is going to come home and want to complain about some of the things it's left behind that it has become accustomed to. Even if it's coming home to your place in a better environment. Like I said, it gets to go up on your couch or your bed versus stay in a kennel maybe where it came from. It's a better environment, but it's different. And so the dog is going to complain about that difference, usually by barking. Maybe this is the first time that puppy is alone in its own crate. And it's going to complain about that. So I always tell folks, when you bring a puppy home for the first time, whether the dog is going to have its own freedom of the house or not, initially you should teach the dog to accept a crate. I believe that a dog should have its own space, even if that crate door is going to be left open all of the time. The dog should have a place that it knows it can go to, that it's got its own security, its own comfort, that it's his or hers. And in the beginning, I think it's almost mandatory, because you can't just bring a 7 or 8 week old puppy home and think that it's not going to pee on your carpeting or think that it's not going to poop in your kitchen floor. That puppy is going to do that. And the only way you can, I shouldn't say the only way, one of the ways that you can teach this dog that potty is outside or on a pad in your apartment is through the use of a crate. if you're a working person or a working family or school and working or both, um, and that puppy's going to be left home for several hours during the course of the day while everybody is gone at work and school, you can't leave a 7 or 8 week old puppy wandering around in the house. You can't even shut it in a bathroom, figuring that, well, you have a ceramic tile floor or some type of hard floor that if it does pee or poop, it's all right. That's not good. And that puppy eventually will start scratching at that door and ruining your door and anything else that it might be able to get a hold of in that bathroom. I really recommend crate training a dog. A lot of people are against that. I understand that you want to give your dog the freedom, and you will. But if it learns that it has a place that it can go to, that it doesn't mind going to and actually likes going to it. You know, this is not Bela's crate. And Bela really couldn't even fit in this crate. But I can show you, this is impromptu. I don't know what's going to happen. But I can show you that once I ask her to go into it, she will eagerly want to go in because she's been crate trained and she likes going into her crate. I use the word kennel. Kennel. See, now her resistance there was because she realizes it's too small. I'll take this cover off so that she can see through it. Kennel, come on. Kennel. Too small for you, isn't it? Come on, kennel. Good girl. Good girl. Now you can see that this kennel, I don't know if the camera is showing this or not, but you can see that the kennel is too small for her. But she did get in it. She did turn around, and she's actually kind of thinking about laying down. And there she goes. She did. She laid down. I hope the camera is picking that up. If I try to move the kennel, she's going to jump out. And if I get up to try to move the camera, she's going to jump out as well. So hopefully there's a part of this kennel that you're seeing off of this video with her in there. And you can see that she's not fighting me to be in there. She actually kind of likes being in there, even though it's too small for her, because she has gotten accustomed to the fact that there's a space that's just for her. Now, this isn't her kennel, but she's accepting it right now as an alternative to where her kennel might be. So please teach your dogs to do that. Now, initially, every puppy just about is going to complain about being put into a crate, being separated from its family, its new people family. And they'll bark, and they'll scream, and they'll cry, and they'll whine, and they'll make such noises that are going to be so painful sometimes that many people give in and say, oh, go get the puppy. And as soon as you get the puppy starts wagging its tail, and it starts licking your face, and it's completely content, and the puppy has won a major battle, and more importantly, you've lost a major battle. You have to put that crate in a place that you will not, your conscience will not get the best of you, where you can't hear that puppy complain for whatever length of time it may take. Some puppies may complain only for a few moments, and some puppies might complain forever, it might seem, for an hour, for more than an hour. You have to put it in a place where it can't hear you and it can't see you. So I always recommend maybe a basement, a garage, depending on what the temperatures are outside. If you have a back room that's isolated from the rest of the house that they can't hear you, put the crate in that back room. It's only temporary. It's only until they've learned to accept the crate. Then you can bring the crate out wherever you want it to be, and keep it open like this one is right now. But when you first bring that puppy home and you do put it in a crate and you put it in an area isolated from the rest of the house, I also, okay, Bela, come on out. Thank you for your assistance. I also recommend that you cover the crate completely so that the puppy can't see out. Don't worry about air. There's plenty of air that can still get in, um, but it gives them a sense of security, sort of like a den. It's their den that they can go into. They've got all sides are covered. They're protected. They feel safe. If you're putting them in an area where it's dark, like a basement, for instance, turn on a light so that light does penetrate through this cover and they're not completely in the pitch dark, not knowing where the heck they are. All of my puppies grow up, and my adult dogs too, grow up listening to music. And so I would turn on a radio with some music in the background in the basement, cover this up completely, and leave. And initially, leave the dog there while you are at home so that you can, in other words, when you first bring the dog home, don't put it in a crate for the first time when you leave the next morning to go to work. And now you're gone for 8 hours working and the dog is in the crate for the very first time by itself and it's 8 weeks old. That's terrible. First of all, I don't recommend any dog be in a crate for 8 hours. I'm just using that as an example to hit home here with you. When you first bring that puppy home, it's always a good idea to bring that puppy home when you and or your family or spouse are going to be around for several days, like a weekend. Bring it home on a Friday. Thank you. Bring it home on a Friday if you guys are off on weekends so that you can spend time with the dog. Put the dog in the crate while you are at home for whatever length of time it might take for that dog to stop complaining, and kind of time it. All dogs are different. Like I said before, some might accommodate to this real quickly, some might complain for hours. And then you kind of time it. Well, the dog complained for 2 hours, let's say, the first time. After it stops complaining, give it about a half an hour. So if it takes 2 hours for it to settle down, wait for 2 hours. After it stops complaining, wait another half an hour, let it lay down and get some rest, and then come and rescue the dog. Come and get the dog out of the crate. Now, if you're bringing home a little puppy, a 7, 8, 9-week-old puppy, generally you can still pick that puppy up. And I recommend that's what you do at this time. The puppy's been in the crate for 2 hours. He calmed down. He rested for half an hour. Go get that puppy out of the crate, praising the dog, good girl, good boy, if you have a name, good Bela, whatever it might be. And pick the puppy up and take that puppy from the crate immediately outside. Don't let it walk around and piddle in the corner or poop over there. Pick that puppy up from the crate, good girl, outside, and let it piddle. Every time you take a puppy out of a crate, every time, not most of the time, not some of the time, every time you take that puppy out of the crate, take it directly outside and let it go to the bathroom. And remember this too, puppies don't always empty completely. A lot of people will take their dog outside to piddle, they'll go and piddle, and then they bring the puppy in and it piddles again. It's because the puppy didn't empty its bladder completely. So make sure you give the dog enough time to empty completely. It might have to go 2 or 3 times. Every dog is different. Give it time to maybe poop, although you'll start to be able to determine the poop pattern much quicker than the pee pattern. Almost every time a puppy eats, immediately after it eats, it poops. So you feed the dog, take it outside, it'll probably poop. If you consistently do that every single time, within a week or 2 at the very most, maybe in a matter of a couple of days, that dog will be house trained. It will know not to go in the house. Now, also remember though, even if the dog is house trained and it's 8 weeks old, it still only has a physical capacity to hold it for a certain period of time, nowhere near the length of time of an older dog. So even though the puppy might know not to piddle in the house at 8 weeks old or 10 weeks old, it's not completely developed. It will piddle in the house because it can't hold it. So what I tell people to do in the beginning, and this is even if you bring a puppy home that's been housebroken, because remember, once the puppy transfers from one location to another, it's an upsetting ordeal for them. And sometimes they need to build up some confidence. And until that occurs, you may have potty issues in the house, even a dog that has been potty trained. So what I suggest is every time you take a puppy out of a dog out of a crate, take it outside every single time. When you first bring a puppy home and you're playing with it, or it has the freedom to wander around the house for the first 10 days to 2 weeks, let's say we're talking about an 8-week-old puppy. From 8 weeks to say 10 weeks of age, while that puppy has got the freedom of the house, every 20 minutes, take that puppy out. Even if it piddled the last time you took it out, take it out every 20 minutes. Almost every puppy is going to need to piddle a little bit when they're active within every half an hour or so. So from 8 to 9 or 9.5 weeks, maybe 10 weeks, while that puppy is out and wandering around the house, every 20 minutes, take it out for a few minutes to piddle. Every time it eats, take it out to poop. After about 9 or 10 weeks of age, you can now go from every 20 minutes to every 30 to 40 minutes. That next phase might take another week or so. Then you can stretch it from 30 to 40 minutes to maybe 40 to 60 minutes. Once you get past 60 minutes, you probably have a puppy that is relatively house trained not to potty in the house. But remember, you're still talking about a very young dog, 12, 13 weeks old. So the excitement might get the best of them and they might lose control. Anxiety could get the best of them, especially if they're now starting to learn to be stay at home for a few hours while people are at work or at school. After about 3 to 4, 5 months of age, you probably really have nothing to worry about anymore. But that first 8 to 12 weeks of age are really important. I should say 8 to 18 weeks of age, really, up until they're about 3.5 months old. It's really important that you pay attention to their body language. Make sure that you're taking them out on a regular basis. Every time they're taken out of a crate, they should be taken outside immediately, no matter what. And in the very beginning, put the crate in an area that you can sustain the abuse of their cries and pleas to get out of that crate. I think that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover in this video. No, off. And I hope it's helpful for you. And of course, anybody is welcome to get in touch with me if you ever have any questions at Regal Crest Canines.com. RegalCrestCanines. Canines is plural. RegalCrestCanines.com. And I always try to help folks if they reach out to me with some questions. One last thing too that comes up quite often, especially with a puppy, and that's roundworm. Almost every puppy is born with roundworms, and every responsible breeder will administer a deworming to their puppies, usually 3 or 4 times, depending on how long they have that puppy. But it's not uncommon for somebody to bring a puppy home and find out that it has roundworms. In fact, I think if you Google it, you'll find out that it's not uncommon for every dog to have roundworms maybe once or twice or 3 times in their lifetime, because roundworms can live for years in the soil. So if a dog or a coyote or a fox or a raccoon pooped in your front yard and had roundworms, it's possible that that roundworm burrowed into your soil at that spot and can live there, depending on your climate, for years. And now your puppy comes along completely healthy, no worms, gets his nose down on that soil where that roundworm is living, and it can contract that roundworm. Even quicker than that, let's say that coyote or that fox or that raccoon poops on your front lawn and you don't know it, and your dog finds it and sniffs it and touches that, it can get roundworm. So it's real common for dogs to be able to get roundworm, cats too, but especially puppies. So when you get home, if you have another dog at home, make sure that you pick up the poop that the puppy poops, so that your older dog can't get in contact with that poop. Make sure that you take your new puppy to the vet, and make sure, one of the things, take a stool sample with you so that they can check to see if there's any parasites. It's not a big deal if they do. I mean, there's exceptions to all rules. I shouldn't say it's not a big deal. The commonality of it is not a big deal if they have it. Your vet will administer another deworming, maybe a little bit stronger than what the breeder was doing, and within a few days that'll get checked. Everything will be fine. But I don't want you to freak out if you do happen to bring a puppy home from a reputable breeder and all of a sudden you notice that or you find out that it has parasites. So please, folks, take all of this in consideration with your puppies. Hopefully this has been helpful. Thank you. Have a good day.